So you may be able to tell that I've undertaken learning a new skill, a new craft, if you will. Goldsmithing. And by goldsmithing I mean copper, brass, silver, gold, and platinum, I guess. Although I'm not that rich, but I'm starting out with brass. You know, it's funny, I've been a goldsmith in Final Fantasy XIV since 2011. That was my main money maker in the game. I would make jewelry and such, but I've never actually tried it in real life. In 2020, it seemed that my skill of the year was woodworking, and it's nice to have woodworking because I can couple that with other things, and eventually couple that with this, or eventually couple this with that. Like, all these skills go together. Well, anyway, it's funny that I just never tried goldsmithing before, and so now I tried. I wanted to make these pince-nez from, I always pronounced them Pince-nez. Didn't realize I was mispronouncing it. Oh well, trying to undo 8 years of pronunciation. But I've had these glasses in Final Fantasy for about 9 years now. Got them from Orem Vale, so many years ago. And I really wanted them, so I decided to make them. I settled on brass. Still not perfect, but oh well. I got these small brass rods that are 1/8 by 36 inches, and I was able to really test it out. I naively started trying it with blacksmithing, and that did not work. Instantly shattered the brass because brass work hardens. I didn't really fully realize that. So then I tried heating it up and annealing it with my torch. It didn't quite work either. So I decided to completely rethink my entire approach and have almost a different ethos from approaching this. And how I work brass now. The finish is amazing. I'm so happy with this. This table was clean until I had to actually do all the fitment and such for that. But I have a fire brick for annealing, and then I have a torch I stole from Bill. And so what you do is you just take the wire, and I turn out my light, and I just heat it up until it's barely glowing red, and then that softens the metal quite a bit. Now I've also heard from, I'll put a link in the description to a really educational jewelry channel, that you can put a Sharpie marker on there, and the Sharpie marker will evaporate at the right temperature. So in case you can't turn off your light, that works too. So let's anneal this brass. I'll go ahead and turn off the light, and then I'll show you the next step of what I made. I'm just going to move this over because I had it too far over. Oh, it's starting to glow. Ever so lightly. Very difficult to see though. I'll consider that good. So even with that little bit of light, you can't really see it very well. It also bent. Yeah, it bent a bit because of the gravity. Now whenever I use my blacksmithing tools, I give a very pitted and horribly rusty surface because all the junk and gunk that was on my anvil, which is a train rail, and on my hammer, which is an old crappy ball-peen hammer, just embedded into the brass. So it became clear that whatever I use needs to be mirror finish. So this is one aspect of why all these skills that I'm learning are kind of coming together and playing off of each other. And you know, it's taken me years to learn all these and get my workshop set up, but I was able to take this little hammer of mine and I ground and sand the end. It's not quite perfect. There's still some little specks and parts where things were like hammered into it, but for the most part it's really smooth. And I sanded it down to 1000 grit, or 2000 grit actually. I put it on a piece of leather and moved it on my hand like that, and then I polished it, and that is a clean hammer. So that will not be marring up the surface. Then I took this piece of a forklift fork and I sanded that very hard metal. Unfortunately, I was a little careless and I dented it a little bit with the hammer. I did not realize that, but oh well. I can make a far better one than this. It did its job valiantly. Instead of using a hammer and an anvil, I might make another one of these, and then I can squish things in a hydraulic press. That would be good. But for now, we have this piece of oak that I just happen to have the right length. That goes on there. Actually, no. Almost forgot. This leather glove goes there. Helps make it less noisy. Then we have our bar that we annealed from there to there. Still a little warm. Now this bar is still fresh from the mill, and it is super, super hard because it was like put through the machines, and as it's worked, it gets very, very hard. I'll try to avoid the parts where I carelessly dented the anvil. I can already tell it's getting very, very hard. And now that is needing some annealing. Oh, what is... Oh, it's a reflection. Okay. Oh, it's the red bucket up there. That looks so weird. So, what I'm doing first is I'm going over with very solid blows. And since this hammer is not super flat, it's like a peen almost. If I do it off to the side, it will hammer at an angle, and then this will start to curve. And I need to work on this because you notice I had to go back over and straighten it like so. Right now I'm not really deforming it, I'm overall bending it with these strokes. If you don't go through and straighten it after each pass, then the sides will start being a bit wobbly. And so in order to keep that in check and make a nice strip of metal, you have to be very diligent about both axes and make sure they stay orderly. So this was my second attempt with my blacksmithing tools, and it gave a very pitted surface. You can see how the deformation in the anvil and in the hammer made these little bump outs. I tried sanding it, but it did not work very well. And then I also forgot, I didn't know to continually flatten the edges, and so it became very uneven. So I need to continually try to straighten that. Now if you try to do this, if you go too far and make too much of a mess of the sides, and then try to, what was the term, upset it, you can get it to actually crack. There's actually a crack right there, and right there, where this piece has started to chip out. And so you've destroyed the brass. So it's very difficult to undo this type of edge issue, it seems. Then conversely, here is the finish with my new hammer and my recently sanded anvil, and is a lot better. This side there was some oil or something on the actual brass rod. I really like this. The finish is much, much cleaner. It actually shines, whereas this one, it doesn't really shine at all because it's just got so much junk in it. So this is, let's see, this is 2 or 3 passes, because the thinner you go, you can take less off, because I think it's more of percentage. For instance, I can take this down by like maybe 10% thickness in one pass, and then it's really, really hard, and if I go any more, it might crack or fracture. So I have to anneal it. With this, I can go down 20%. And, you know, 20% gets smaller and smaller, so the thinner it is, the more the metal has to move out of the way of the hammer, and the more working there is. This is where my work for today began. You can probably see that it's almost like, well, there are flat sides on this side where I've hammered it to make it straight, but for the most part, it's like a squished rod. Actually, I guess it is a squished rod. Let's anneal this section from here to here, and then we can flatten it more from here to here. If my desk wasn't so messy, well, I'd like to do this, so then it heats up the length of it, but I have too much of these schematics and such around. And there we go. It was just barely red hot. And unfortunately it did bend it again. Normally I have it to where it the end is propped up. Otherwise it does that. So I'll have to straighten that before I hammer it. It's pretty straight. So this metal's very soft right now. I'll make sure that this stays flat because I don't want it to twist throughout the length. I want it to stay flat. I know it's not easy, but I'm going to still try. So I'm going to start here. Oh, I'm kind of going off. Oh, it hurts your ears. I'll have to get some hearing protection if I want to do this anymore. I'm really messing this up on camera, if you can tell. For whenever I did my pince-nez, I was able to get that entire section done without going too much off curve. But you know, as soon as you turn on the camera, everything fucks up. Pretty good. I'll cheat. There we go. And so this is probably, let's see, because I do want to make another pair of pince-nez. Oh, I've pretty much overshot it yet again. I can see about grinding down some of this so I don't have it too thick, because I always go a little too thick. Yeah, so that'll just need to go down a hair, and then the edges can be fanned out to match that layout. Because I'll need to make this square shape, and then I'll need to turn it into this shape. And then I made my first one too wide, and I didn't want to cut it down. And so I had these really wide pieces that I was trying to curl. And so it made things a little more difficult. But I did learn that I could take these, and I can actually bend them long ways. Curl them around. But you can only go like maybe 10 degrees, and then you have to anneal it, and then go more, and then anneal it. And then I also found that it helps if I peen the edges. That's why I messed up my anvil, because I can peen around the outside to make that thinner and longer. Now, I'm really happy with how that turned out. We now have a little strip of brass. I can make it longer or narrower if I really wish, which I might just do that. I might just anneal a section and then hammer it a little bit back down. I don't know if I need all this mass on here though, so we can see. So I filmed the latter half of me making this pince-nez right after, oh, wrong side, turning this brass into a strip and then curling it into this shape. And then I was able to curl it into more of this nose piece. I still had to do some work to it. And so here I hope you enjoy how I made my first pince-nez, or my first goldsmithing item. I figure the episode 2, we can work on making the hammer a lot more pristine, polish it even better. And then the third video we can work on making an anvil, or making a second anvil, and maybe crushing brass between them. See how that works. Oh, we can make coins. Oh. The right angle. I might score the inside so it's not so smooth. Doesn't seem to affect it. Let's try some tape that has a more PVC rubbery finish. Oh! Yes. Alright. So I want to find like a tape that's has like a silicone surface, or something like a smooth but grippy surface. Now, just to put the lenses on, like that. Well, that step is unneeded because I realized I'll need to remove the tape in order to solder on the lens frames anyway, so oh well. Good practice. Nice. I do believe that this is silver soldered on. I was going to redo this, but I think I can just remove that. And a better option would be to utilize the ends. Oh yes, there we go. trying to figure out if it's all right to have the dimple, which is, you know, this is a big C shape, and this is what holds the lens in. If I can solder this onto here, then I can sand this or even desolder this down completely. But then I have to contend with this being a little too far out, and then also the worst part is the end pieces of this ring look like they are silver soldered on as well, and I would hate to unsolder that. Yeah, they are. Alright, so I'm not going to use that method. I'm going to use this method. So I can just take a grinder and grind that off, or the sander or whatever. Maybe in a future version I can do a little better. Fairly accurate. Right, so these have a chrome on them. I'll use this 1000 grit sandpaper to take that off. Now, I do not have quite the expertise to do silver soldering yet, so I'm going to try regular silver lead solder. It'll melt at a lower temperature, and that'll allow me to avoid melting the silver solder that's already on there. In the future, I can work on making, like, getting better at not melting the rest of this, but I worry about that a lot. Ooh, it's a lot. Okay. Did not mean for that much to come out. It's working. Oh my god, that worked. I will need a little bit more. Oh, that's perfect. I need a little bit more than I thought, so I definitely overcooked it there, but oh well. This one's not going so well. Oh, okay, that actually was a pretty good connection. Not great, but better than I had feared. Oh, and also, I got that up to red hot, and the other pieces didn't fall off. So I might be able to use this method with ease. The lenses are a bit too far apart for my liking, but I think I can just crunch the little pieces of metal in, and that should work. Okay. And then, oh, all right, there we go. So it is just ever so slightly closer in. Forgot about these little nubs. Thankfully they don't really intrude into your nose, but I still want to get rid of them. Oh no. There we go. I really was pushing that way too hard though. Way too hard. Oh, very nice. I'm getting a very good wetting action with that solder. So good in fact, oh God, come on. So good in fact that kind of wish we could get on the other side, but let's let that sit instead of touching it more and more. I imagine the silver solder would add a lot more rigidity. Oh, I just realized I bent it. About as close as I can get it. You know what? It's time we messed with the bottom of these. I intentionally did not cut these until later. There we go. Now to find some sandpaper. Oh yeah, that cleans it up right quick. So we sanded that down. Let's go to the workshop and polish it with the polishing wheel real quick. I'll try not to break it. So this one is not going to be perfect. It's just going to be nice. Nice first version. First thing I ever made with goldsmithing. And I burnt some of the chrome off because it got too hot. And, well, it has lead, which isn't the greatest. And it's probably not very strong. So this one can be just, you know, it'll be the best one it can be. And then I'll work on making the second one even better. We can use silver solder. I can work better on keeping the heat away from the parts I don't want. Maybe we can gold plate that one. Or just brass plate or silver plate. I don't know. Brass plating might be okay. Especially if I can find like a small polishing wheel for a Dremel that I can get into there with. And also I will make this closer to the actual design. It's a little further away still. I wish these lenses were closer in, but I don't want to stress the metal too much and make more work for myself. That's why I think the second version will be a lot better. I'll order another pair of glasses, and then I'll go and finish this pair, and this will be awesome. I already polished the brass once, and then that little bit of sandpaper went a long way to cleaning it up, so I don't have to polish it too much. This is just going to be a quick run. Oh, I can finally see. Let's see. Doesn't look quite right, but still pretty good. I'm happy with that. Gotta not do that. Scrunching up your nose. I have to put a lot of tension to pull it out, and then that causes me to worry about the solder joints. Oh well, but it's a first model. Oh well, it's nice to be able to see again. The next model, I'll have to make it to where it pinches at the top more, because right now it mostly pinches at the bottom. In the meantime, for this one I can add more tape, and so it'll be closer at the top. Alright, so I tried adding a bit more padding at the top because my nose is very, very narrow, and turns out my nose is a bit too narrow for that. So instead, I noticed that the clip likes to be centered like that, so I just took the lenses and angled them back a bit. So I guess the clip will just be a bit more angled like that, and that's fine. I might twist the lenses a little bit more. I'll get better at putting it on, of course. Seems to fit better. The lenses are too far apart still. I would like them to be a lot closer. Maybe this is the actual 3D model from the game. And yeah, it's just a little bit wider, but that's what the second version is for. I think, actually, I'm quite blown away by how this first goldsmithing experiment went. The information I've learned about handling this type of metal and the soldering definitely makes me think that working with more precious metals will be a lot more difficult, but I can get there slowly by working with brass and copper and things like that. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching. See ya.